Welcome everyone to Call With Us, Stop Book Bans. Today we are going to call our elected federal representatives about H.R. 7661, the so-called Stop the Sexualization of Children Act. My co-host, who I'll introduce in just a minute, and I are going to take just a couple minutes and review advocacy basics, and then they particularly are going to discuss the bill and all the impact and implications of this legislation, this dangerous legislation. Then we are all going to put ourselves on mute and we are going to make 2 to 3 calls, one to your House representative and one to each of your senators. Then we are going to come back together and we are going to discuss what happened. And it's that simple. We're going to try to get you out of here in 40 minutes. So first, I want to say that today's event is hosted by the Jewish Women and Religious Freedom in Pittsburgh Project, sponsored by the Jewish Women's Foundation of Greater Pittsburgh, underwritten in part by Trustee Nancy Weissman in memory of her beloved mother-in-law, Trustee Jackie Wexler. And we thank them very much for their support. It is also sponsored by Jews for Freedom and co-sponsored by Florida Now, Congregation for Humanistic Judaism of Metro Detroit, the Rabbi Joseph H. Gumbiner Community Action Project of the Tucson Jewish Museum and Holocaust Center, Folkshul, Philadelphia, Congregation Beth Adam, Temple Israel of Greater Orlando, and Secular AZ. And I really want to thank all our co-sponsors and partners for joining us in all of this. And now I want to take a minute and introduce our moderators, who I'm really excited to be working with. First up, we have Carrie Wardinsky. She is a member of the Jewish Women and Religious Freedom in Pittsburgh Steering Committee and a lifelong Greater Pittsburgh area resident, a librarian, and a community advocate who cares deeply about access to information and ideas. Her work and activism have focused on protecting intellectual freedom and ensuring that all people have the opportunity to encounter a wide range of perspectives. As both a parent and a librarian, Carrie has seen firsthand how books can open doors, build empathy, and help people understand the world around them. Thank you, Carrie, for joining us. Our second co-moderator today is Lainey Davis, USA Today best-selling author Lainey Davis. She lives in Pittsburgh with 3 feral sons, 2 rescued rabbits, and 1 tired husband. She writes steamy contemporary love stories with grouchy heroes, strong heroines, and plenty of chaos. She's excited to find out how much coffee is too much, and she will always speak out against censorship and book bans. Thank you both for joining us. One more little housekeeping note. This is a meeting rather than a webinar. You guys are part of this. This is interactive. Feel free to ask questions and engage with us. We want to talk to you. And hey, Eileen, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. What I would love is if everybody could take 1 minute and put where you're coming from in the chat. I'd love to see like where everybody is. And then if you could raise your hand and tell me if you have made calls to your federally elected officials before. Who has made calls to their federally elected? If your video off, you could just raise your hand electronically, press the raise hand. I just am curious. So we have a few newbies, I think. Okay, so we're going to start. Paul, if you could put the link in the chat to the Advocacy Basics document. Paul's going to put that in there, you guys, and then you can click on it. I'm just going to spend a couple minutes going over this. It kind of best practices for making phone calls to your elected officials. For those of you who don't know, I'm a recovering political staffer, so I have been on the receiving end of those calls. So let me tell you a couple things. One, phone calls are considerably more effective than emails, text messages, faxes. Make your phone calls. They actually do make a difference. In-person meetings, the top. So if you happen to be in DC and you want to get an in-person meeting with your elected, you should ask for it. You should call and try to get one. And if you can't meet with them in person, their legislative director, their chief of staff, their deputy chief of staff, anybody like that you can get a meeting with, that is worth it. Phone calls, the same, not quite as great as in person, but right up there. And you also, when you want to take a longer time to call, can call and ask for a phone meeting with the legislative director, the person who's in charge of education policy or whatever policy you're calling about. Any of those people, you can often get meetings, and frankly, you can make a difference by talking to them. They have the ear of the elected official. They sit down and say, we got like 50 calls today on this on HR 7661, and every single one of them was really against it. And people were saying this and people were saying that. We had one particularly interesting person who happened to be a librarian, and she pointed out yada, yada, yada. So those things can make a difference. When you call, be polite. You are talking primarily to a low-level staffer, often an intern. Some of them are like 18, 19 years old. Don't swear at them. They had nothing to do with this policy. They have no decision making. Be polite. If you are not polite, what happens is you will get tagged in their database, and anything you say moving forward won't really be taken seriously. So
Can I
don't
add
waste
one
that.
thing? You can also meet with your representative when they come home from Washington
Yes.
at the local office.
Yes, thank you, Barbara. Absolutely. And you can meet with staff at the local
Yeah,
office.
absolutely.
They
Yes.
often have constituent services director. They often have policy directors in their local office. All of them, usually all of them have a state director, and those people are kind of the highest level of that local office. You can call and ask to meet with them. And you can bring other people with you. You don't have to go alone. Does anybody have any questions about calling their elected officials? Please go ahead and speak up. Okay. Well, then I'm going to stop at that. In the document we're going to put up there, a backgrounder on this bill, we have a script for you. You do not need to follow that script. You can say what is in your heart. That is often the best thing to do, is really speak your own heart. But sometimes it can be a little intimidating. So if you want the script up when you're calling, you're going to click on the links that Paul put in the chat. I'll also put the links in there. And I am now going to turn it over to Lainey and to Carrie, and they are going to talk about this really problematic bill and how it really is about censorship. It's all yours.
Um, I'll go ahead and hop on first, Lainey, and then if you want to go ahead and chime in, because really I've been learning a lot about this bill from Lainey actually, through her social media. But on the surface, the bill sounds like, like many things, like it's here to protect children from sexualization. But what it actually, when you start to dig into it, it's a bill that ultimately could potentially be used and weaponized to take any books out of public school curriculum or libraries that have any LGBTQ plus characters, discuss anything about sex ed, which is very problematic. And especially in a state like Pennsylvania, where we do have sex ed as part of the curriculum, that could be a real problem. But not every state has that. But it also would take away federal funding from any schools that do provide any books on this subject matter. And I think there's a lot of unintended consequences because the bill is written very vaguely. And I've seen this previously in kind of local, like school board level policies that have tried to be written where, books like Dog Man or Captain Underpants could potentially be banned because they discuss nudity in them. And then the other problem is that it does have exceptions for literature that these particular congressmen have deemed okay. So they're the ones who get to decide which particular classics, most of which have been written by white men, would get exceptions to this bill. So, things like Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye or The Color Purple could potentially no longer be allowed as well. Lainey, do you want to go ahead and chime in with anything?
Yeah, I am an author, obviously, and when I say I write steamy romance, I am writing sexually explicit material that I don't think my children should read, right? But that doesn't mean that I don't think any child should have access to this. And the couple of the problems that I see with this bill are that it uses the word explicit, which is not clearly defined by our government. We have a three-pronged way to define obscene. And that is something that school librarians, in their expertise, have used to curate their collections. But we don't have a definition for explicit. And so that is scary and a slippery slope for me. And then another thing that bothers me a lot about this bill is that they do name sources of school material that they find acceptable. And that comes from a company called Compass Classroom, which is a privately owned religious homeschooling company. And so I don't want my children or any child having access in public schools to a curated reading list from a private biblical homeschooling company. Um, so that, I mean, those are my primary takeaways. Right now, the bill is talking a lot about LGBTQ plus issues and mentions transgenderism specifically, but I know that that is just smoke and mirrors for what they really hope to accomplish with this. And this is a federal book ban. We see a lot of these at the state level. This is a national bill, and I view it as very, very scary.
Can I just ask who the sponsors of this bill are? And about, God, 20 years ago in Virginia, in the district I lived in, Fairfax County, they tried to ban books and we stood up to them. So just to let you know, but I'm curious to know who the sponsors of the bill are, if you
One
know.
of the primary sponsor is a representative out of the state of Montana, and then a number of Republican representatives have signed on. Truly, this bill should have never made it out of committee, and it will be coming up for a floor vote relatively soon. It could be by the end of April, for according to information that I'm seeing. But so while I don't have,
I just put them in I put it in
yep,
the
okay,
chat.
Katie's got you, but it came out of a representative from Montana.
It's
Barbara, click on the link
yeah.
in the chat, and that takes you to the sponsors. And actually, you probably should,
Yeah,
because that way
I
you can
haven't
see who
heard
it is.
of this. I'm embarrassed to say I haven't heard of it, but it's so critical that we go out and cross those ethnic, class, and cultural boundaries and bring this information to people because people don't know. And the media, the establishment media is so deregulated and it's owned by so few.
Yep.
We're in trouble.
I think this bill has flown under the radar a little bit because there is so much happening in the wider world, but I think it's a very dangerous bill that could set a huge precedent. My Congress rep is Summer Lee, and she is very outspokenly opposed to this sort of thing, but she's on the committee for the bill. And I was able to see, that she voted against it in committee. So I know that her team opposes it, and I can mention that when I call, but I want to be one of those data points that Katie mentioned for the staff, to be able to
Well,
help.
even so if you're calling someone you know is against the bill, you're giving them backbone. You're giving them support. They need to know that the people who elect them support them on this. So if you happen to know they're against it, thank you so much for being against it. Can you be louder against it? Can you hold a press conference? Can you speak out? Can you send uh, an email to all your constituents about this bill? Can you help us fight this bill? So you can be a little more outspoken. If you know or if you suspect that they're going to support the bill, then that's where you're going to give them a few reasons of why you think they need to change their mind and vote against it. I want to say one more thing about this bill. In the bill, and Carrie and Lainey, you can speak to this too. I know that they make a list of, I think, 3 places that people that are allowed to help us decide what books are considered classics and allowed. And one of the places is an organization called Compass Classroom, which is a right wing, really Christian nationalist, biblical homeschool training website. I have the link on our I can even put the link in the chat. I'll do that in a second. That's what they, and they're one of, I think, what, three organizations that schools can look at to decide if a book is considered classic or appropriate for their age. So talk about church-state separation issues. That's a
Yeah.
big one.
I think it's such a slippery slope for curriculum development too, especially from an administration that is talking so much about bringing things back to the states. Anytime a biblical private for-profit company is getting involved in curating lists for my children's curriculum, I am very concerned.
And
Okay.
I'll throw in just this last part from the kind of the librarian perspective. Not only that, but having access to books. And if we're talking about school libraries, those books in there are optional to check out. Any parent or any guardian can decide what their child can read or not read, but having access to books with diverse characters, LGBTQ characters, especially for kids in middle and high school, are life-saving. And also having access to books that depict hard and difficult scenes, potentially of rape, or, dating issues, sexual assault. A lot of kids, and this is not just anecdotal, but there are a lot of kids who do not realize that that's what they went through until they read it in a book from a library. And so to remove access to those is removing life-saving resources from from kids who are experiencing very difficult situations.
I put in the chat, so in case, so you don't even have to click on the backgrounder if you don't want to, our asks and sample call language. So can everybody see that? You can literally do that. Does anybody need help finding their House representative or their senators? Speak up now. We're happy to put those links in the chat too. Perfect. Okay. Anyone have any other questions about this bill or what we're doing? Barbara?
I was going to ask you, is there a Senate bill number?
There is not. It has not been introduced in the Senate yet.
So we're only calling House of
No,
Representatives?
you can call the Senate because it's going to
Okay.
be voted on in the House and likely passed. So it is going to be in the Senate
Yeah.
probably fairly soon. So you can say, you can still call it. They'll know what it is. Trust me, when the staff puts it in the computer, it pops right up. So go
Okay.
ahead and call the Senate and you can modify it a little bit. I know it's not there yet, but it's coming.
Right, of course. A bill like this? Yeah.
A bill like this, right. Okay, what I'm going to ask everybody to do is mute themselves and turn off your video and then make your calls. And then when you're done, we're going to give you, it's 9:22 for me, 12:22 for you all. We're going to give you like 8 to 10 minutes, so about 12:30, 12:32. When you're done, turn your camera back on or raise your hand or give us some way to know that you're done. And then we're going to come back on. I would love to hear some feedback of what the staff said, or if you were able to get a hold of anybody. And then I have a small survey that I'd love everybody to do. So make your calls. I should put on some like Jeopardy music or something. Yeah, Carrie just put in the chat. Carrie, I agree with you. Honestly, I would say when I worked in politics, there were a couple bills that we would get a lot of calls about, but a lot of bills we got zero calls about. Zero. Zero. So 4 calls about a bill made a difference and it showed up. And so it was, I would, if we got, I was the chief of staff, if we got a bunch of calls about a bill, I would go talk to my boss about it. It would be like, wow, we're really getting a lot of calls about this bill. We need to look into it more. So this does make a huge difference.
Well, no surprise for me that I got voicemail from my senators. I'm in Pennsylvania and my senators stink.
I got voicemail for all three. I'm also in Pennsylvania and just a little bit south of Laney. So I have a different US rep, and we never see him. He doesn't meet with constituents, and I have yet to have a staffer even take my call in person. So, and of course, Fetterman and McCormick are not high on the list of answering calls either.
I did speak with a lovely staff person at Summerlee's office named David, and we had a great conversation.
That's probably why I couldn't get through, because you were on the phone. Because I just got voicemail both in Summerlee's local office in DC, David McCormick. So just left messages everywhere. But I'll try again because Lainey, if you got through, maybe I will have a chance to get through as well.
And voicemail, Marlene, voicemail makes a difference too, because they check those like every hour, every couple hours. They check those.
Okay. Yeah, I left
definitely
my
do.
phone number. They can call me back too.
Yep. Yep.
I hope they do.
Yep. I did put, by the way, I put a survey in the chat. If you guys would fill that survey out, I would so appreciate it. It really helps us know if these are effective because we want to be effective. So feedback is important to us. So I would greatly appreciate it if you would fill out that survey. And I would love to hear what other people's results were. I'm going to say that I did get through to one person at my rep's office and who is going to support this, I'm sure. They didn't know, but I know. But it was able to kind of say some of the talking points and speak to them and, and she said, well, I will definitely pass this to our legislative director and, and maybe if enough people in my area call, maybe he will think twice about it. And when I called, one of my senators is Mark Kelly, so, and I like him. So when I called his office, I said, not only do I want you to go against this, but I really want to see him speak out. When it comes to the Senate, issue a public statement. He's very vocal on social media, put some stuff out there. So maybe that will get to him. I kind of think it might, I'm hoping. What are other people's other experiences are? Anyone else want to speak out or put a note in the chat?
I got 2 answering machines from my senators and left messages. But for my local representative, whom I know, I did get someone to answer the phone. It was just an intern. He has no clue what the representative feels, but I'm pretty sure that he's going to oppose the bill anyway, and is what I told him, and talk to him about some of the talking points and to pass that information on.
Perfect. Barbara, go ahead.
I got somebody from Representative Riley's office, which is Congressional District 19 in New York State. They didn't know anything, just like the person before me said. But I looked online and people are pressuring him to oppose the bill. So hopefully he makes the right decision. I am a big supporter of single payer healthcare, and I cannot get him to move off the public option. As far as Kirsten Gillibrand and Senator Schumer, I had to leave messages for both.
Okay.
So
That's great, though. I mean, like I said, messages count.
yeah, right. Well, that's the best you can do.
Right. Right. And I'll tell you, you can call people back if they vote in the way that you were hoping for. Do not hesitate to call back and even just leave a message of like, hey, thank you so much for this vote. Anybody else have any other comments? Again, if you can fill out that survey, I would really appreciate it. I think I have, let me put it in there again. Yep, there it is. I just put it in the chat. It will just take you literally 2 minutes. Susan, I like what you posted. Mentioned how deceptive the title of the bill is. Isn't that always the case? They've got great marketing people when they name these bills.
Yeah, the intern I talked to when I just told him the name of the bill said, "Oh, well, I'm sure that he's for that." And I said, "No, I don't think so." And then explained it to him.
Right, right. And that intern will go talk to their boss,
We hope.
who is probably like the deputy chief of staff or something in that office. All right, it is 12:37. Unless anybody has anything else, I'm gonna close it up. Again, I want to thank you all for coming. Like, it really does make a difference, these phone calls. This is gonna be posted on our website in a couple days, likely early next week. Share it. I'll send it out to everybody who registered. It's ongoing. Whether the House is voted, I mean, when the House votes, it's going to the Senate. So share it with your friends, post it on your social media. All of you are micro influencers. You all have 5 people that you know that could make these phone calls. So share this with them, share the Advocacy Basics paper, share the backgrounder on this, pass it around, start a trend in your group of making phone calls. You can do it with us. You can have your own call with us programs. You can have little cocktail hours, coffee hours, breakfast and calls, whatever you want to do, you can do that. And you can make a difference just by starting something like that. So I am going to wish everybody a wonderful day. I want to thank again the Jewish Women's Foundation of Greater Pittsburgh for their support in this. I want to thank Carrie and Lainey so much for their support. I want to thank all of you for coming. And everybody have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.